Just.
Are you live?
I don't know. I'm checking YouTube. Oh. It says starting.
When it isn't live on my end.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, because it says starting. There you go. It says live now.
Is it live? Okay.
Is it live? Can go.
Sometimes I pull my willy. Sometimes I pull my willy and the white stuff comes out.
Good.
That's the
Good
intro
job.
for
No, do proper intro. You.
Hey, what's up, baby? It's me, Sonicbolt, and here we have good old Blazin HBK doing Red Table with our special guest,
sick as fuck.
DonaldDuckTheViking. Haha. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's why it's called the Donald Duck.
Okay.
So, since this is a hot topic, how was the hurricane?
Fucking gay. Like, do you know? I was like 5 days without power, right?
Are you What? What are you doing? You sexist pig.
What the fuck? What?
Are you?
What?
Don't turn this conversation into like over-exaggerated sexual spousal terms.
You said the word gay.
Talk about but but that's always because it's always a fun prediction. But if we're gonna stay serious on the topic, like when we come to the hurricane, what hurricane are you referring to, by the way?
The one that ravaged this guy's house. Oh, never mind. You live in a basement, so you're good.
I live in like a cement basement, so I was okay. My neighbors got fucked though. The house, like half of their house, got destroyed. And I'm kind of scared about what they're gonna do next.
I told you, invite them over.
No.
Have a crazy party with them.
You know, I value other human beings, but like, if you're fucking annoying, I will just abandon you. Fuck off. Even if it's like the apocalypse now.
You rather leave people to die.
However, I'll come back to your corpse and piss in your mouth if you want to. Like, other than that, fuck off. But yeah, the hurricane, fuck, it was okay. The only problem is that 5 days without power made me go almost insane. Like, having to like not shower for almost a day over here in the tropics is a pain in the ass because you're fucking sweaty and pasty all the time.
Yeah.
Fucking flies surrounding you all the time, getting bit by bugs and shit like that.
Did you know flies? Did you know flies only fly around shit?
Probably attracted to body
something. Tell me something that I don't know, Blazin. Jesus Christ. But you know how bad it was. Like, I got bored. Of jacking off. Like, I was fucking sitting there like almost 18 hours a day, sitting in bed, just like fucking, just completely just brain dead. But like, what can I do to pass the time?
Do you remember the color of your walls?
I guess. I'm looking back because I don't know. It's gray. Okay, nice.
Are they white now?
No.
You sure?
I'm not a fucking savage that squeeze that shit around. I have foreskin so I can like keep it and then kind of squish it. I don't know why I'm talking about this. I probably shouldn't. But like,
you're one of those guys. You're one of those guys that tries to aim straight up, so it goes up and down in a perfect 90-degree angle.
Yeah, like I'm jacking off on my desk and I see a fly on the wall, and I'm like, just position that right there. No,
it's time for you to die.
After like fucking 5 days, I couldn't feel my dick. It was like painful.
What the fuck?
But yeah. This is pretty good. I don't know how fucking everyone else is doing.
Was it overhyped? Was it overhyped, or was it what you were expecting?
It wasn't overhyped because like the north of Puerto Rico is completely fucked. There's still a lot of towns without power. Fucking Helios. I thought Helios died because he went for a week straight without talking.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the first thing he says, well, we're not gonna say it on the podcast because.
Okay, I'll say it for you.
No. I'll ban you forever.
Pull the trigger. And then I said, I wish you died on the below that. Okay.
Yes. Good job. Good job.
Can't ban me. I'm good boy.
You just banned my channel. Good job. JK, because I've got.
Well, how much do you get from monetization? I mean, it's just 2 people by far watching this. Podcast, so.
I can pay for a chewing gum at the end of the month, so.
Okay, nice.
You've robbed me of my chewing gum.
That was also I gonna say. There's still some towns without power, which I'm kind of afraid of. But other than that, like during the hurricane, we got like sent like 3 projects to finish by Tuesday, so that was fun.
Wait, and school still worked?
Yeah, school work still even when the fucking hurricane. I don't know. Fucking they sent us through like the group chat, like, hey, do this and this by Tuesday.
Wow.
Good shit. It's pretty much just. Oh wait, you don't have a house? Fuck you.
What are you gonna say?
I was thinking that what was the. I mean, I couldn't possibly imagine whenever you get into the situation where it's like, well, the hurricane is like ravaging the land and be like, well, oh, we're just gonna pretend everything is normal and just be like, well, you're still gonna do your regular stuff every day, and so you know.
Here's the problem. School teachers are incompetent over here. Like they really don't do anything. They try to like squeeze their paycheck as much as possible by like doing nothing. And if it's like a season, like every time around March or June or not June.
Are they those kind of teachers that
March
only
and
read
April,
a
like,
script?
You know, that late spring, yeah, they kind of do that. Late spring, they kind of rush projects like fucking back to back to back to back. And now we're gonna have an extra month extended, so I don't know if it's like meant to like smoothen out that process, but like considering it's fucking Puerto Rico's education system, then it's fucking not. We're just gonna have an extra month of nothing, and then an extra month of like getting rushed projects. And every time a natural disaster happens, or like we don't go to school for like plus
an hour,
like a week plus. Then we start getting like projects rushed.
Yeah, it just feels like nothing is getting done. Basically, it just feels like the school is like pointless at this point because you don't get anything done.
Kinda is.
Well,
the good education, modern education. I gotta show you that video.
I think that's a new argument now, especially since you see in the U.S. I know I'm not gonna be like talking too much topically about politics and all that, but I mean, we're talking about the weather, I think, but when we're getting to the school subject, I think it's rather a better point to start getting through it. But to say it simply, is that what I feel, at least, with the education system, even in my country, which I'm from Norway, by the way, I feel that when it comes to the further focus upon, like, where you want to sort of educate from, at my time, there were like no one who was like clearly explaining like you should educate yourself, depicting on what the market needs. No one told me that at that time. People were like, "Well, you should do the work that you believe in." All right. So, for instance, I was, finishing school. I did get like 100% education, and I did still fulfill all of these things, but what happened was, whenever I was finished my education, guess what? The market didn't need one. They had like, especially for the closest area where I live, there was like no needs yet. And so I was like, well, I need to search some other places. And now I do a lot of other like special courses and so on, just because of the social welfare system. That we, unfortunately, I'm kind of landlocked and strained into, because I do want to get 100% of a proper employment. But what I felt was, instead of them focusing upon the fact that instead of focusing on the educational things, like taking personality and all the personal traits into account, they should also consistently go ahead and be more informative about what the market needs. Because what I felt at the end, whenever I educated, was like, well, I did complete it, but in the end, I didn't get the reward by getting the job that I was properly educated to do. And the problem is, then again, no matter how much education you get at that point, there are always going to be new stuff in place, and you're going to have to learn it from scratch. So no wonder...
Just adapt, basically.
Yeah, you have to adapt. Everything has to be adapted. And no matter how highly educated you will be, you will never be as educated as you can ever imagine. So you always be learning in a certain extent and degree, but it's about the capacity, the willingness, the ability to be adaptable at certain changes. That's going to make a huge difference. And I think that in school, they're not really hugely pushing for adaptability, rather than being on the single mind focus of you should educate us this because this is what the market needs. No, you need to adapt.
Yeah. I see that as a way,
it's
like,
basically the same thing here.
most education systems try to like diversify too much, but they don't try to like get to the point. They don't try to focus and like, hone a certain
it's not about
material.
competence. It's about their beliefs in what they think it's right for theirs. But the problem is what they think is totally opposite of what you think. And then again,
they're a lot more like, I guess, stubborn in a way. They don't want to change. They want to do what they want, what they believe in.
It feels like an ideological viewpoint, which is something that we can definitely take further on, especially when it happened to the left in the US and so on. I feel like they fell into the same category as the religious group, which I think is a huge shame, because you can now clearly reflect and see that. But in either case, that's just my point of view about those things. So, but otherwise...
But you're not allowed to have a point of view anymore. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you a sexist? Are you a sexist pig?
No.
You homophobic monster.
Oh my god.
Welcome to real world politics nowadays.
Yeah, well, that is the unfortunate part, though. Argues and debates are now shut down to more like emotional beliefs rather than facts.
Pretty much. I keep like thinking about how we've just devolved from like actually using logic to become like children again.
Where we just use like our emotions. Like,
yeah, like he got the cookie, but I didn't, so I'm gonna protest and kill 3 people and fucking in a riot.
The cookie.
Yeah.
I want that cookie.
Yes, that's the best metaphor ever.
I was seeing like this article written by like some fucking journalist about how she felt completely discriminated, and she was warning everybody about how like segregation is back. People of color are sitting in the back of the bus. Literally, the only reason why she was asked, and I say that it wasn't against her will, it was completely voluntarily asked to go sit in the back of the bus, was because of a fucking disabled man.
Yeah.
Like, oh boy, how much of a fucking toddler can you be? But on the topic of school stuff, I don't really know what to do anymore with this, because I'm not really learning anything. Most of the experience I've learned was pretty much at home from like stuff on the internet. Like, I'm trying to like make music, I'm trying to do art, I'm trying to get into video editing, I'm trying all these different stuff and see how much I can like diversify my portfolio in a way to like get a job in the future is something like creative. I don't know really what to work in.
But one thing we could take on this one, this is something that I was kind of surprised, especially when you mentioned today before the stream start, and that was the news about the metro. Could you like come back to it? I mean, I think it's interesting. I think it's just a whole different sentiment. But what was the thing about? Yeah.
By the way, side note, if you see me muted, it's just me blowing my nose. I mute myself on everything and just do my noise.
You like breathe and you mute your mic?
No, it's not breathing in my mic. It's I'm sick as a dog, and every 5 minutes I gotta clear my nose. Otherwise, you're gonna listen to this.
Okay,
it's not a good noise, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
If I could like, let me see if I can like sum up the story pretty quickly. Basically, this fucking, I think it was like an attorney or something? No, a counselor.
Yeah, counselor. Yeah.
From Connecticut. He got his profile found out by one of his friends on Facebook called SoFurry.com.
Okay.
Oh no.
It's like this weird like furry like I guess message board or something like that. Anyway, profile got leaked and wait, what the fuck? Okay, I'm reading this stuff. I didn't know about this. Said that his profile showed he'd like to be called Grey Muzzle the Fox and was happy to divulge in sexual like and dislikes, saying he tolerated rape.
What?
What the fuck?
Okay, that's more fucked up than your...
He wrote erotic furry fiction under a pen name, which got him hundreds of followers. So he was like popular on this community for running like furry smut.
Okay. Huh.
I'm trying to find out because there's different reports. Like the first one that I read was that he apparently got outed by somebody, but he didn't get kicked. He just like panicked, I guess. This one says that they actually went out of his way to kick the counselor. So I'm not really sure how good it goes, but like...
If I'm reading the article since you sent me here, and what I'm translating is that he's basically just participating in a sense of activities that some people would find it enjoying, but or weird from some other people's perspective, but you know, I can see it, and you know, I can see that, and but I think that what it's like the same phenomenon with 50 Shades of Grey. Let's be honest about that. You know,
Pretty
like
much.
all of those different things here. Those are basically like the left wing kind of ways open up a new chapter of what they want to believe and so on. So this one isn't. This one in my ears and my eyes. Ever since I was like studying and all these things, the furry thing hasn't been like a huge phenomenon for me. It's been like, well, I recognize it, but it's just, you know, I haven't digged in further. And
yeah,
I know
it's
there's
there.
always...
It's weird, but I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, it doesn't bother me that much, you know. But what I see here from what the reports and what they're saying here is that he's being interactive in the community, but he's not insisting upon the sexual activities that people always propose, that these are the stereotype. So there are a lot of like furry communities where they have basically the anthropomorphic view that just want to be showing on art designs, and you know, it's just a fascination. But I can see it. It's like the same thing with fascination of women. I mean, there's, you know, regular things there, but there's some people who always like to overly sexify and stereotype all these things. And you can see that in art. You know, you can see that in art. You can see that in everything. So I don't find this particular case to be that whole lot different, other than the furry part. But I think it's, you know, it's kind of shame, you know, if people get outed out just because they have another opinion in the case of what they describe for. And it's for artistic purpose. I'm pretty sure that what he's saying, as far as I read it, is that it's only for, you know, participating like anyone else who are interested in the same thing does, and like participating in terms of the artistical values. But he doesn't, as I'm reading from this, what he consists is saying is that it has nothing to do with the sexual activities or any of the sexual part that he's.
It's just weird because he still like wrote a lot of erotic furry fiction though, so like, well, I guess like people get horny, like you can't fucking blame the guy.
But there's a lot of artworks, you know, maybe writing eroticas because maybe there's a market interest for it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be associated with these things. It's like, it's the same thing as you could be associated that you're supporting, you know, from the other side. For example, you may support people in the black community, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, just because you're sharing one view, that the nationalists are then going to go blaming you, saying you're you supporting black people because you're, you know, oppressing in some ways. I mean, there's always like some people have this stupid idea that you're only supposed to be representing on your same color and all of those things. That's basically how the left kind of represents.
Yeah, let's unify everyone by dividing them. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job, you fucking retards.
Like, it's like, no matter the race, the color, and all of those things, it doesn't really matter in that case. But, you know, as he's saying, he's only insisting in the sense that, as just for the reading, as I said, probably said a million times, but he's just participating for those people who are interested in the eroticas, probably, but he's not participating in such a way that he is, you know, exaggerating.
He's not going to conventions and like fucking setting up orgies and shit like that. He's just
pretty
like
much.
pretty much doing it on like the side.
Yeah, he's just there, and he's just having the same interest in the non-sexual activities, I suppose. I think that's probably the best in the.
It's still weird, like fucking. How old is this guy? Like, I mean, not to be like.
I would guess by his looks, I would guess maybe in the 40s, 50s, maybe. I'm just
like 40s, something like that.
40s,
but
50s, I'm guessing, but
I don't know. But everything I think about furries, I think about like 14-year-olds in like 2008, not like
emo kids that don't like their skin, you know.
For like not like 46-year-old men, not to be like a cunt about it, but it's still like weird when I read this. Like, wait, people think they're grown men that like.
Grown men like to dress as Sonic the Hedgehog and youth with tails.
Not to like shame people, but I think it's just like odd.
I think there's oddity in the communities, and I think that's by it's like the same thing as I'm not sure if any one of you remember this, and I'm probably gonna butcher it as well. But there was one thing that I didn't really like the media, especially in the US, was doing as well. You know that there has been like a sports athlete, like I think it was like NBA. There was one of the basketball players who would like he was open to saying that he was gay.
Yeah.
that he was coming out of the closet, right? Now the problem is, you know, if this wasn't such a big problem in the first place, like they presume that there are some people who don't like gays. And let's be honest, there are some people in the minorities who probably don't like gays. You know, that's just a fact. But they presume that the majority of people are this. So that's why they have their agenda saying, oh, we should celebrate that he's openly gay and coming out of the closet because he's a sportsman. He's such a celebrated person. Now, the thing that what it actually does is that it proves a point that, well, if it is such a big fucking deal that people are gay and people just accept the fact, why do you presume that everyone has this racial bias or any sort of anti-gay bias opinions when you're contradicting by pushing forward that this is such an important thing to celebrate? No, it's not. I mean, if people are accepting already that, you know, people are gay, the gay community has been sort of accepted and be able to stay, then there's no further.
Why are there still pride parades though?
Yeah,
it's so stupid. Like, you're just wasting your.
I'm gonna go on a little rant. Coming off from that, like, Blazin, finish it. What you were gonna say?
Yep.
I was saying that the gay pride parades is just complete fucking borderline pedophilia now. You go to YouTube and search like gay pride parades and you see like these bunch of freaking men, like all of them gay, I suppose. I mean, it's a gay parade. And they're just making these little 12-year-old kids twerk and dance and all that shit. And I'm like, what the fuck happened to the gay community?
There isn't a problem with sexuality, but if it's like a fucking, like
it's so retarded. Jesus. Like, that's not gonna help your cause. People are just gonna look at this and say, it's ridiculous. Like, you're not normalizing homosexuality. You're actually making it a bizarre thing.
Here's the problem. The problem with, like, being gay and shit like that, it's that everything revolves around sexuality, so you can't really express that in a formal way. I suppose, like, it's fucking
dude, just say, hey, I like dick instead of vagina. There you go, the end.
Yeah,
how fucking hard is that?
If you want to go, like, fully represent that, you know, kind of gotta whip a couple of dicks out. Like, fucking, I don't know how to explain this, but, like,
it's like the same thing as we're supposed to be. Also, because we are like in the, let's say, regular heterosexual. Also, we should then be go out and like celebrating and pushing forward and so on. It will, you know, I'm pretty sure that if that was the case, then there would be so many of the gay people communities, or probably some other groups, would be like, "Hey, they're able to do that. Why shouldn't we be able to do it?" And there would be like a big contradictory. But why isn't the case that we are celebrating heterosexuality? Well, because it's an accepted thing. It always has been a traditional accepted cause, and it's a tradition. That's basically what it is. But we still don't go in front of your face and say, you have to celebrate this, and be like, oh, just get out of my way. It's like when people show the same thing with religious people, like the Mormons, for instance. There was one time I was walking in the city in Hamar, and I had a case where there was a Mormon coming on to me, and like he did want to talk about God and so on. And personally, in my view, I'm an atheist by definition. But what I said to him was that when he did answer about this, it's like, I don't think that the focus upon someone who people may have their own personal beliefs. I get that they should be able to have that, but in my opinion, if all those things that they mentioned in the top, what the Bible says and everything is supposed to be true, then why isn't this person up on the top punishing people who are stealing? You know, it clearly says in the Bible, thou shalt not steal, or, you know, thou shalt not kill. It's probably one of the biggest impact factor that, well, a lot of people have died, but why haven't these people been prosecuted? Well, because the
you will be punished, except only when you die. You'll go to hell, you know, and you're supposed to believe something. Like that, you know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but the thing is that what I find more contradictory is that, well, I could say, you know, here's the thing. If we're just going to take the abstract, let me just say I'm going to be joining in a religious way just to talk at the same level as those people religious. Okay, so here's my religion. My religion is basically believing in that there's a human factor beyond your control. There's other factors beyond your control. And that the only way for you to contribute to society is that you need to actively on your own, and even in interest with many others, participate in the society in order for you to make a change. So when someone, as mentioned with the Coastal Guard in the US, there was mention about, or maybe not the Coastal Guard, it was probably like a, I don't remember, it was the Home Guard or so on. They had basically this, when people were like flooded and there was like boats driving around, these are basically the, as you could say, the God's messengers. And these are the people who carry sort of the message of God. So what I say is, instead of believing in something that you can't see or physically hear and all of these things that these people are so believing into, you should rather believe that you have another human being coming to your rescue. That is basically the message by the person in the top. But I say it's rather better to put pressure upon these people on Earth rather than the man at the top.
Yeah, it's retarded. I don't know. I've never got the point of religion.
I think that the biggest issue with religion
is people that being afraid of death and they want to believe something that happens after death.
But not only that, but religion is not only that, but religion is a way to try to consistently give people something busy to do, and also to be putting moral and ethical values, and also not only that, but also stop further progress of insisting upon their own ethic morals. Let's say that the God system I made. So I say it like this. If I had another religion, I would have made it like this. I would have made a religion that says every time you do a good thing, whenever say you force your time, you help your friend, and so on, every time you do good, you will be rewarded beneficially by every time you help someone. Now, there will be some cases you may have to say no, because there aren't always the time you can help each other. And so you may say, oh, I'm going to be afraid that I'm going to be punished by death if I didn't help everyone. But let's be honest and real about this. Everyone can't help anyone, and especially in situations where they put themselves in the first place. So if there is a volcano outbreak in some other place, and there's a man like 20 feet away, or maybe not 20 feet away, maybe I'm gonna probably use like something that's more realistic in meter spectrum. So, but let's say he's like, of 50 feet away, and you're not going to be able to reach him within time. So say that it's going so fast, and you're thinking, what should I do? Should I run, or should I save this guy? And obviously everyone's going to be like, well, yeah, that's the logical sense. It's like the
it's called survival instinct for something.
Yeah, exactly. The biological instinct of survival. And so, the aspect of trying to be good in every case is good. You better try. That's the best thing. But simply the fact is, you can't save everyone, and you can't get everyone to join your side. It's the same thing in democracy. You can't get everyone to accept and agree opinions. You can't get everyone to be joining the same view as you have. But you certainly cannot kill people for having a different view and different opinion, because that is not justified. In a democracy, everyone should have the vote for their own opinion and their own rights. But they're not entitled to the rights. The only thing is they should have the right to be able to join the part of the community, no matter their race, gender, disabilities, any of these things that has been mentioned so far. But the problem with the left, as we mentioned, has
Wait! You're criticizing the left? What a Nazi! What a Nazi!
At least the radical left, like Antifa, for instance, because they believe in this self-entitlement. They're supposed, like, the world is supposed to evolve around them, and if they feel like, everything isn't going their way, then, they feel there's something wrong about the world, and they should be going out and protest in the street, like hit with batons and all these stuff. It's horrible.
Hey, do you know the based stick man meme?
No.
So there was this guy, he was at a free speech rally, and apparently Antifa arrived, and they wanted to, between quotation marks, shut down the thing, aka beat everyone in there. So this guy just came prepared with an helmet, a shield, and a stick, and you just see videos. Yeah, you just see video. Let me try to pull that up because it's so funny. You just see videos of him beating the shit out of Antifa people with a stick, like those candlesticks. That's the based stick man.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh
see
my
if
fucking God.
there you go. Based Stickman, know your meme. You've got to have seen these.
Fucking Christ, like I don't want to get into like that much
This
of,
guy.
like, political talk.
This
but,
guy,
like, fucking,
look
the
at
only
that
thing-
shit.
What the fucking? Let me see.
Oh yeah, see, yeah.
Look at the
Okay.
fucking. Oh my God, the fucking American flag on the shield.
Yeah,
Jesus
the
Christ.
American flag.
But, like-
There's the Texas thing on the jacket. I think that's the
Oh,
Texas flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that
Yeah.
needed to be justified for Antifa to be a scumbag. Have you seen that video of that? Like, I'm gonna say he's an autist because the way he was reacting was completely crazy. Basically, this guy was having an argument in the middle of the highway, I think it was, with somebody else
Oh, I think I know.
from car to car, and basically, it was obviously like political talk. I don't even remember what the subject was really about. This Antifa member got so angry that he got out of his car, grabbed a dog, and literally spiked them in like the highway on
What
the
the
road.
hell?
Spiked a dog. I'm like,
Why?
okay, these guys are certified scumbags. Like, I don't know. He was overreacting like a fucking
Yeah,
like a 14-year-old, pretty much.
that reminds me of those Black Lives Matter rallies where they decided
Yeah.
to just make a line in the middle of the highway
What the
Yeah.
where people are. Yeah, let's block the highway with our bodies, and people are like, "Fuck these! I'm late for work. I need money to put food in my kids' mouths." So they just, used the little pedal to the right, called gas, and ran over those guys. And I say good riddance, because what kind of fucking rally are you trying to do where you
What's your
block
point?
freaking innocent people from their jobs?
Yeah, you're involving people that has nothing to do, or rather want to be anything to do with the
Yeah.
political group. And they're just basically ordering people in line, and that's why even of course I condemn the ones also on the right being radical. I also condemn the left one for being in the radical.
Everybody's guilty if they're fucking acting irrationally.
Yeah, it's like, well, no matter on the left and the right, there's no stereotypical on the one side and another. But the problem is when Antifa is like stepping up with violence, oh, that's going to be the same answer for the right. And sooner or later, the both sides is going to be answering to probably, most likely, a case of civil war. And you know what? I actually think that maybe
It could be a possibility.
it might be a good thing that it happens. Because they need some cleaning refreshments. And they need to basically get things together. Or if they want to avoid it completely, they have to destroy the fundamentalists in the group. They have to destroy everything of the left-wing social Marxist kind of ideology that they have. They have to destroy and recreate democracy from scratch and try to put up with all of their fundamental issues out of the side. And there's a lot of arguments about the minimum wage in terms of the economy versus less taxes and so on. But as far as whenever I have been like seeing on things on the politics, I fell in the trap before of believing in this left wing idea where you should have like so much tax on the rich and doing all these things. But I realized over the years that, well, the problem is you're taking the money, but you're giving it to such a cause that isn't always going to guarantee it's good. Like, it's like you try to take more money to throw it into the economy, but because of the mathematic, because of the free market, it's just going to be answering itself. Like, it's not going to be like de facto giving you the answer just because you throw money in the system. It's just going to do the opposite.
I can see why. Speaking on a lighter tone,
yeah.
I mean, you wanna end it there, or you wanna continue?
No,
No,
I think it's kind of there because I mean,
Yeah,
the
you
whole
can change the subject now.
Yeah. we
On
can say
a
something
pretty lighter tone. Speaking of like natural disasters that could probably happen, with all this shit going on, with like 4 hurricanes clustering up into America, fucking earthquakes happening in both Puerto Rico and Mexico that are fucking potentially deadly.
It's God.
You guys
It's
know
gotta
about-
be God. God is punishing us.
It's gotta be God. God damn it. No, do you guys know about Yellowstone volcano?
Yes, the super volcano that might
Oh,
explode.
no.
This fucking super volcano that could, if it erupts, could potentially wipe out 3/4 of fucking the United States.
Wow.
And it's gonna-
about, like,
It's gonna
there's been
put the
fucking,
world in
there's been
winter or
fucking
something like
reports
that.
recently about how scientists have been trying to like find a way to nullify or to like at least like delay the fucking the volcanic eruption, because it's been building up for almost what, like
A million years?
these past 10 years. It's been like fucking like increasing like rapidly because of all the global warming stuff. Apparently, I'm not a fucking, I don't know anything about like, you know, what's the word, like geological stuff. So I don't know what really causes eruptions
I
and
don't
stuff
think
like that.
global warming has anything to do with that. It's just natural.
It has to do with like does it have to do with the plaques?
Obesity, like people in
Fucking
America.
hell,
have.
Blazin. Like earthquakes and stuff like that. I'm not really sure what really,
Yeah,
like,
it might be
triggers it.
the tectonic
What? Okay.
things, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so never mind, my bad. But yeah, I mean, people have been saying like 2017 has been fucking us in the ass. We're not gonna even make it till 2018 with all the shit going on, both politically and like fucking, you know, natural disasters and stuff like that. Like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, I feel very sorry for the people who are getting through these issues, and you know, I endure, and well, maybe not endure, but probably not the right word, but I do see and can only sympathize, but can't really like completely empathize with everything about these people who's standing strong despite the fact that, yeah, as I said, with hurricanes and all the other tornadoes and all the other like
All the
earthquakes,
fucking
and so on,
wildfires that happen around the states.
they still continue to live there. They still continue to live there. They still continue to build up, refix, and thrive and go forward. You know, I find
Yeah.
these people to be much more braver than people who live in peacetime all the time. You know, these people are really tough.
Hey, I live in Switzerland. I guess that's
What do
the
you
do in
most
Switzerland?
pussy country ever, because whatever happens, like either World War, Civil War, Yellowstone blowing up, it's not gonna happen here. I'm basically living in a bunker.
Yeah.
A fucking expensive bunker, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Oh,
things are expensive here.
yeah. Swiss is like. No, I have. Well, you do live in Switzerland, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I do live in Switzerland.
Yeah, I was now it's kind of like, well, where did I get my information from? Talk about Switzerland. Oh yeah. So you're Portuguese, but you live in Switzerland.
Yeah.
That seems very, very sensible.
See, I got away from Portugal because it's too close to the ocean, and I'm afraid of tsunamis. See, it seems
Oh, yeah.
plausible, right?
Yeah. Well, even in my country, the only thing that we get this issue is just like not like in every part,
Snow.
but just flooding. Yeah, just flooding in general. Like in terms of rain, like if it's getting too much, like the water's gonna rise at this level, like destroying roads and like other infrastructures, but nothing big seriously, like in that regard. But you know, it's always a cost to like rebuild and do all of these things. But you know, I'm glad that we don't have any furthermore issues than that, and I'm very glad that I live in like the center, nearly the center, a part of Norway, at least the south center, I would call.
About the
Blazin, do you
Yellowstone
recommend
thing.
living? Wait,
What?
What are you gonna say?
Yeah, about the Yellowstone thing. It's not gonna reach Puerto Rico, is it? I mean, the ashes might reach.
No,
but...
it's fucking U.S. Like U.S.
Yeah, I know.
It's not
but
gonna reach
where you're
North
living,
America, just-
you're
just South
fine,
America.
right?
No, like volcano does not cross the ocean, Blazin.
But the
Fucking-
ashes,
Yeah. The ashes,
the ashes can fuck you in the ass. Like I remember, like a couple of years ago, the Iceland volcano erupted, and all the planes in Europe just had to stop for a month or so.
Oh yeah. I remember that as well. Wow. That's
Yeah, like the ashes just spread all over, and no matter what, you could not get a plane in the air because it will just fuck up the engines and all that stuff.
I mean, if it's like risking like I guess like progress here, I think it can, but like not really like lives to like a certain extent.
Yeah, I guess. All you're gonna get is like, oh look, it's clouds. Never mind, it's ashes, unbreathable
sounds like so.
stuff. You know.
Yeah, if someone is actually like watching the podcast so far, I do of course like kind of consider something I say maybe to be a bit too much on the radical things, but it's not like, if I want to summarize everything I mentioned in the back, is that here's the point, that what I think is important right now is that I support democracies, but I do support a democracy that's reasonable and that it looks at both sides of the same coin, and
That isn't brain dead, pretty much.
that doesn't defame and that doesn't put so much effort about who want to blame, that rather puts an effort to try to coexist in a society. They rather try to focus both on its nation first and then the other nations.
Yeah.
And then try to consistently try to make sure that at least the stability of the country and so on is put into the right welfare amount, and also making sure that they have good relations with all the other nations existing in the world. So, what's the thought about the issues? I mean, since we do talk about the weather and so on, what about North Korea then?
Those guys.
Fucking Christ, I don't really keep up with it, but like from
the good
what I've
old
read, like,
the good old
Christ
American
almighty.
solution.
Here's the problem. Speaking about all the left wing like liberals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's been multiple times I've read throughout like Twitter and like different news articles. People have been defending North Korea.
Really?
What?
Yeah, like, the main issue is that North Korea wants to bomb us because Donald Trump is being too aggressive and too mean with other countries. So like they want to put an end to this. North Korea only wants to free us from the tyrant of Donald Trump.
You gotta be kidding me.
Jesus Christ. And they call
Can
him-
people
they
be
call him,
more
like,
brain dead?
Like they call him like borderline insane, like America. Meanwhile, they have fucking concentration camps over there working like 2017.
Man, North Korea right now is basically Germany back when Hitler was in power.
And even worse.
It's a dictator.
Yeah,
A
even
dictatorship,
worse,
It's a
basically.
dictatorship, and it's even more worse. And the problem
I'm pretty sure you cannot immigrate in there. Okay, let's just say that.
Yeah, and the thing is though, is that another thing that I was very surprised of is Vladimir Putin's response to the issue of the FN sanctions against North Korea. He's saying that basically, if we put sanctions, economic sanctions, upon North Korea, it will be even worse. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's my question: how are you gonna have someone who has this, they believe himself to be so superior with the technology? They want to use that superior technology, and they want to make a bomb which is like 3 or 4 times bigger than the
fucking
one dropped
hydrogen
on
bomb.
the-
Jesus Christ, it's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
And how do you put a diplomatic way, or maybe even the cases of like intrigal way, to make sure that someone even who has this biggest amount of influence on his own people, how do you tell those people, look, if you use any more of this fucking stuff around, you're gonna have to pay it in such a very dark consequence that it's gonna be living for the rest of your life? How do you feel about that? And I feel that the sanctions, yes, it's a good thing, because it gives them less things that they can do, less things that they can promise them. But then again, you may say, oh, but what people might be afraid of is that they're then desperate. They want to use these hydrogen bombs and send it to any one of the other countries. Now, I'm not sure about what NATO and what the FN has been thinking through about this. I am hopefully presuming that they have some countermeasures, especially since with South Korea, when it comes to these missile, like the ballistic missiles that has like the capacity to hopefully deter these things. But in my opinion, I think that the only best solution to probably with this issue is that if there were like an internal revolt and the people would do a coup d'etat, I think that may have been the best issue to solve them all. But we have also seen that in the eastern part, especially in Ukraine, when some of the democratic nations, partly the US, did interfere in Ukraine. And a lot of people still probably deny that, well, the US government wasn't involved with putting any of the issues there, because there was people inside Ukraine who was believing the democratic values, who were like, well, they wanted to get out of the system by being under the Russian scheme, and especially with the economical part of the oil and such. But I believe that the intervention in either case, no matter if it's by the Ukrainian people or by the interest of the NATO and the US, I think it was partially, as Nigel Farage said, is that don't be surprised if you pick upon the Russian bear and it's going to be basically responding back by basically clawing you. So if you poke it with a stick, don't be expecting a surprise when it's going to basically take its claws and try to get around you. And I think it's a good reflection that you have to be consistently thinking about each and everything you do, because that's going to have a consequence for the next couple of years, or even further, a couple of months, or even weeks, even days. Because we're living in very dangerous time. Yes, the atomic bomb has been
stepping on eggshells.
Yeah, it's been like a de facto freezer to any actions. Like censorship is in the left. Like, we use the racist and the label code. Like, you racist, you this, you misogynist, you sexist, all these things. Those are all just basically censoring, like stopping, preventing measures so that you can't
Nazi.
do anything. You're not allowed
You forgot
to do
about
anything.
Nazi.
Yeah, that could also be true. I mean, that probably is true in many ways, because even the fascists themselves, they did the same strategy, using violence to crack down and the same thing as well. So that's also true. But as I said, we need to have some other measures to say to this North Korean leader that, hey, if you do any more of this stuff, we're gonna freeze your process from doing so.
Yeah.
And I think that both will be quite tough a challenge, but I think at the same time it is necessary, because as a child, say if he wants a candy and he's crying about it, and if you give it in and you're saying, well, you cannot afford it or so on, you're just going to feed in the issue. They become more and more self-entitled. So basically, as what happened in World War II, when Neville Chamberlain was like giving in to the demands when it comes to the Czech Sudetenland, he was thinking, and hopefully that by giving in to Hitler's demands, that would be the solution. There wouldn't be any war. But in fact, the opposite happened, and
feed it. Feed the drive, basically.
Yeah, the drive of interventionism, or basically the non-interventionist views and values, were, not good enough at the time. And so, of course, when Germany declared war in Poland and everything else, then that's when all the allies had to step in. So it's like it comes like sooner or later to a point is, some people think it's easier and better to react now instead of later, and I think sometimes it's agreeable. But at the same time, there should be not only countermeasures, but there should also be a counteracting thinking upon what if possibly, if we do this, what if this will happen?
Yeah, think about every step.
Yeah, and then they have to ask themselves, is this the right thing to take and right risk to take? And then be like, well, some say yes and some people say no, but let the majority win. Like if the majority says yes and the majority or the less minority says no, then of course it's going to be obvious, both in the democratical sense and anything else sense. Majority usually wins over the minority. But then again, the big issue is that you can, within a majority, if you're a minority, so on, you can still persuade and talk your way through to hopefully get some majorities to join in within your minorities. It's like you see with independent parties in terms of political views. I mean, I'm only going to mention just an example, but I'm not really good at remembering all the other informatics on. But I think one of the biggest and great example of this is UKIP in the United Kingdom, because they were very small and they were like having little to no probably resources at the time to be stepping into politics. And I think that so far, when I'm watching and taking a look on YouTube, and particularly reading about Nigel Farage and seeing his views and so on, I'm very humbled and actually honored to see that, despite the fact that you have these people believing that they're not going to succeed, they're not going to be prevailing, you're not going to see any further progress, then you see the opposite happening. It's like, well, I guess they sure were damn wrong at that. So it's like a youthful feeling, like when the old tells you, oh, it's not going to work and so on, and you'd be like, what did you say? What did you say? It's like,
it's like act like a victim. Good
yeah.
job.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Like for those people who are on the intellectual part, as one person, as another one I've known in the US, or not known, but rather just been following through, is Ben Shapiro, and he is such another good example about he knows the view and the mindset and the idea of what the lefts are, because he even went to, as far as he mentioned so far, and as far as I can remember by watching some of the videos and so on, he mentioned that he has been going through the same universities, so some of the same education, so he possibly knows most of these things. And that's the same thing if you go back to World War II when it comes to the Finnish Winter War. Carl Gustav Mannerheim, I think he was a Swedish aristocrat, but he did, of course, speak Finnish. But he was with the Russian army before the 1917 sort of, or 1918, sorry, I think, by the Finnish revolution. He was basically in the Russian army. He knew the psyche of the Russians, and so that gave him the sort of the experience to know how to handle the situation when they were when he was asked to make sure to make plans to defend Finland by all and any means that they have against the Soviet Union's invasion of Finland. So even though small information, even that small thing, if you know your enemy and you know yourself, that means you can conquer and do like a win 100 battles, which is probably the way of Sun Tzu's teaching, which is just another thing like, that's so cool. That's cool to kind of reference at the same time. But
oh yeah,
anyway.
I wanted to ask you something, since you live in Norway, since you have a border with Sweden.
Yes.
People are always saying, like I see everywhere, that Sweden is completely fucked with immigration, like uncontrolled immigration.
Yeah,
it's become a fucking meme at this point.
Yeah, because all of a sudden you see Sweden being the capital of rape of Europe. Like, it's real stats.
Yeah.
Is it really that bad?
I think that I haven't honestly been to Charlottenburg for a while, so I'm not going to state like an overly radical view, but I have seen, and I've been reading to the news, and especially a lot of people were criticizing, for an instance, there was a politician in my country who wanted to visit Sweden and wanted to talk about when it comes to the integration part of that. Basically, this politician was saying, we want to learn from the mistakes of what happened in Sweden. They want to learn about the mistakes, what they shouldn't do, and what they should do in order to not getting into the issue. And by reflecting upon that, and especially what these people in the news mentioned, the one thing I was very furious about was that she had basically a deal with another spokesman in Sweden. I don't remember the name, so that's why I can't really reference it. Plus, I also want these people to just be left out of the dark. But I was furious when the other part was like, well, she was asking nicely that she could get in there and talk to her, but she said no. The other part of the Sweden was working, the politician in Sweden. She said no because she was afraid that would be a refueling sentiment to the political agenda in my country. So it would be like, well, you're just doing that for propaganda or political agenda. And I'm kind of thinking, well, actually, you may say it both ways, but actually it's more like we want to learn. They want to learn exactly. We want to learn exactly what we should not do and what we should do if there's going to be, in terms of the controllability of the immigration. And I was kind of thinking, you know what? This is soon like a lost hope, because it's very inevitable that, or very apparent that if they aren't interested to openly discuss about the issue, since people have been taking discussion in the first place, if there were nothing to hide, then why would they refuse to answer these calls or answer some of these things that they wanted to be open about learning? And so I'm not going to say about the personal experience that I know from the time part that it's really unstable, but I may just want to say that there might be some parts in Sweden, some very extreme parts in Sweden, where there are probably ghettos and separated parts. But I cannot confirm 100%. So I'm not saying, I don't think it's an entire country, but I think there are serious and like very partial part of the regions that have these issues. They might be just spread out, or there might be a concentration. But what I'm thinking is there might be just a spread out with some certain concentration, especially probably around. There was, like someone said, Gothenburg and Göteborg again, some other areas. But I cannot confirm 100%. I should not be stating 100% as a fact. But as far as I get the impression of what the media has been trying to ask these people to, and that what people have been responding to so far and in Sweden, is that I think that the majority part, there will be a few concentrations, but other than that, I don't think it's the whole entire country. That's the saveable approach that I can say. I'm not sure if the capital is.
The thing is, I'm reading the statistics now, and it seems like it's calmed down, because I remember watching the statistics, and it's the same website as before,
Yeah.
and it was number 1 with most crime, Ukraine, and number 2, Sweden. And I'm like, what?
Fucking hell.
How is this possible?
Yeah.
It's on 13 now, so it's not on 2.
Yeah,
So I guess
think
it's
that
gotten
the
better.
reason for that, I think that pretty much the reason for that is because they did deport some of these people out, and I think there were a couple of reasons. That was, of course, a necessity need. But here is of course, the main important thing for all those people who have this triggering feeling. Everyone should come in and so on. I have one view and one important point that I think everyone should remember when it comes to the nationhood and sovereignty. And I have a very simple, it's a philosophical question. It doesn't mean it's always correct, but what I think is important is, I want to ask this and hear you guys' use upon it. So for an instance, why is my country called Norway?
Because it's away to the north? I don't know.
That's one thing, but what do you think, the
North way?
Sonicbolt, what do you think about that?
I don't fucking know, man. Don't ask me this shit. I'm not really good.
I think that the main reason my country is called Norway is because the majority of the people of the same culture, of the same people who existed within the past time being, as our forefathers have been raising us to do, is a majority that represents the country. Why would you, for instance, travel into, let's say, for an example, Sweden, if 80, or I'm saying probably that may be overly radical, but let's say 60% of the population are not Swedish in culture. And I'm not meaning that Swedish in the sense that, you know, they are, you know, just coming in and they just learn the language. No, I'm meaning properly learning the culture of Sweden, speaking in Swedish, and actually being registered as a Swedish citizen. That is the main reason that I think that it is important to focus that my country is named after the majority of the people who represent that culture and the tradition that my forefathers have been fighting for centuries to make sure it exists. Yes, we were in a personal union with Sweden. Yes, we were in a personal union with Denmark and so on. But in the end, my country is recognized for the name because it represents the majority of the people who are representing the nation that's been growing there, existing and living and working and fighting hard for.
What about Puerto Rico?
Fucking Puerto Rico's a shithole, honestly. Like, I don't really know.
I cannot speak for
Everybody.
Puerto Rico, but
Here's the problem. Everybody's just gone. Majority, like, I think it's 60% of the people who live here are like upwards of like 60, 70 years old. Everybody else has moved to the US and other countries like Europe because the economic like state we're in is fucking almost unacceptable. We're in so much debt because of like what shit that happened like 30 years ago with politicians taking out loans and stuff like that. We're pretty much like in a screwed position, and there's not a really like successful way to move onwards unless we change like the fundamentals of this country.
Exactly.
Yeah, but why do you think it's called Puerto Rico if it's so poor?
It's fucking
it's not Rico anymore.
Like,
you know?
Look at all this gold. Let's take it for ourselves. Let's move it over to Spain and Europe, and then like, so like even from the beginning, like the name is like kind of ironic in a sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, it's just such a shame that there are some countries having better choices and benefits than others. And, you know, it's like the same thing with the EU project. Let's just be realistic about this. Hellas or Greece has had a huge problem in the first place in terms of their economy. And there's been like this issues about, you know, bailing out and having this thing working on. 2008, the financial crisis was a pretty good example of what the inevitability of, you know, the problem with coordination, both in terms of spending and all of these economical things. I am, of course, going to have to research for it more. But what they learned so far is that when it comes to economy isn't as simple as most people would like to love and believe. It's like the same thing with minimum wage. It's not as simple as just saying we should just go from having $9 or $10, you know, like as a minimum, to then go to 15. You know, that's a whole different story. It's like you can do a gradual increase, but going from that just really spontaneously going up like so, is more difficult than anything else. It's like you're asking for people to say you're gonna just do one thing to now do three things at the same time. So now you're supposed to be swinging your right hand and swinging your left hand like like how one horizontal and one is vertical, and you're supposed to be singing at the same time. And that may be good for some people. Some people can do that, but say if people with other disabilities or so on, they can't get to do that. So you're basically dragging up the expectations, and I think it's not a good thing. I think you should go for a gradual increase. It's like when you try to learn as well, don't just fill them up with just this big pile of things to do. Go a gradual increase. Okay, so you played on the easy difficulty. Okay, that's nice. I feel it's a little bit too easy. Okay, let's go normal. Okay, I feel I've been able to do that. Let's go hard. Okay, this has been better. Yeah, let's go very hard. Okay, I think this was a bit too much. Okay, I think I should just go hard and just try further on. It's like this gradual increase instead of going from normal to just like extreme. And I do see people try that, and then what they did, but just end up doing is that either they just go nuts and you rage quit, or they just they punish themselves so early that
they rage quit in real life.
Yeah, or they just persist, but they will never be able to get through. So I think always.
By the way, we've reached 1 hour.
We can go on for like a couple of more minutes, because usually the podcast when I edit it goes for like 40 minutes.
Yep.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, we can go for a bit more.
Okay.
Is there any topics you guys ever wanted to cover aside from this?
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about politics, the weather, and so on. So what about in terms of games? I think that's what maybe most people are very interested to hear. So are there any games in the future that you're expecting and waiting for?
I mean, right? Look at I don't know if you can see my fucking Discord, but I'm playing what I always wanted right now. I'm playing fucking Sonic Mania. Jesus Christ, this game is everything I've ever wanted, and I feel like I'm okay. I'm okay with this. I don't need to like wait for like Wolfenstein 2 or any other like massive shooters coming out. This game is good. I like it. I can come back to it. It's a fun game. Pretty much all I need for 2017. On the other hand, I don't really know what to expect from games going onwards from the future, because if we're gonna talk about like all this early access stuff, Blazin, have you seen the new Quake game?
No. Just straight up no.
Have you played Quake before?
No. It's not my type of game.
Have you played the Quake Arena? I think it's what like most people played.
No.
No, but I'm talking to Donald.
Yeah, I played that Quake Arena. I think it was like not the dedicated one. I played like what was the name? Probably QuakeCon or so. Like
Quake Live.
Yeah, Quake Live. Yes, thank you. I played that just a few times, so but I have been checking out the new Quake. It's all the reason I haven't been able to invest in it is because I haven't had the spare money to invest in it.
Yeah,
Plus,
money.
And I've been thinking, thoroughly about the game. Now it's rather a good point to purchase, but like earlier they had like a season pass and they had all the other things that I was expecting.
It's a season pass for an early access game. It's not only that; it's an early access game with like a hero shooter mechanic. So it isn't like the original Quakes like back then. This is mostly like sort of like Overwatch stuff, basically. And they're adding like implementing like
Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm mixing it by Doom. Sorry, Doom was the thing that I was like going in. So I actually played original Quake actually.
Oh yeah, the original Quake, the single player was great for that. But this is more like a Quake 3 sequel. This is more like the multiplayer stuff. There's loot boxes and like microtransactions and like hero-based shooter and like everything that I didn't want to. Yeah, everything that I didn't want to for this game. Like, how does Bethesda, out of all the like fucking companies, with how much money they've been making off from like Doom and Fallout and Skyrim re-releases, they have the audacity to put like this AAA game backed by a massive company into early access mode. Like,
yeah.
Oh, it's kind of disappointing a bit.
Everyone is like they're buying in to this probably like titling and franchising. Like bigger companies, they buy in for this bullet. It's like the one thing that a lot of people have been excited about. I don't know if you heard about Age of Empires 4.
No.
Like Do you think?
I don't follow that many.
No,
like,
I
games.
understand that as well. But basically, here's the thing, though. The original Age of Empires series has been made and thoroughly worked out with Ensemble Studios, which is a very nice and traditional company in my view. But of course, 2009 they were disbanded. I'm not sure if they were bought in by Microsoft or they were like they joined other divisions. I'm not sure. But here's the thing that a lot of people really are afraid of, and that is when you have another company coming in, they have a similar experience. Like for example, with Company Heroes, for instance, this is Relic, working on it. So I think that what people have to just be aware of is that whenever it's going to give it into another hands, it's also very reasonable to be skeptic. And I think that you should not pre-purchase from a company unless you trust the company's reputation is pretty good. That they've given us all the games.
Nah, Konami, Metal Gear Solid 5, nah.
Yeah,
It's like
talking about
pre-purchasing is a fucking is a like a bad thing. Honestly, like
yeah,
it's awful.
I pre-purchased Rome 2 when it was like an expectation of a new thing, and of course that was basically the beginning aspect of saying, you know what, I will never pre-purchase a game except if the companies that I know, the reputation and the way that they've been delivering the games, those are the only people that I will work for. For instance, Paradox is another strategy.
There's only one company that I fully trust for pre-purchases, and they don't do pre-purchase. It's the Red Project, CD Projekt Red. Yeah.
CD Projekt Red. Yeah.
All their games have been good, like awesome games.
Exactly.
Like it's the kind of company that they don't care if they gotta delay the game's release date, in order to have a finished product.
Polish everything out.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I think they delayed Witcher 3 like 2 times, and the Gwent game as well. Like every time they delay, and they don't care, and the fans know that okay, they're delaying it, and they know they're gonna delay it, then they don't care because they know they're gonna have an awesome game to play.
The only ones that I guess like a trust is like pretty much with Nintendo, but like I don't really go too much with pre-purchases at all.
No.
Because I pre-ordered Breath of the Wild and I have it on Wii U. Still haven't played it though. Fucking god.
You haven't played it?
I've seen people like they've taken upwards of like 200 hours to beat like the main story by itself without getting sidetracked or anything like that. It's such a massive game that I really need to set up some time to play it.
Yeah, I think it's like a planned schedule that you need to put on as well. Here's another problem that a lot of people have. Even I have been reflecting upon that, and that's the biggest issue is. There's a difference between being busy and being productive, even within the game playing status. Being busy is like saying, oh, I have 200 or probably like 300 games being installed, or maybe it's just say 10 or 50 games. And I'm going to play this and this and this. And they play it like sporadically, but don't have any schedules, and therefore they're not like further proceeding. Productive people can say, I will take one thing at a time, and I will be playing this game only for so long, and there will be a further progress within it. And I reflected upon that when I asked myself, well, maybe I should play like when I was a bit younger.
Like 2 games at a time, or like 1 game at a time.
Yeah, 1 game at a time. I could do 2 as well. I mean, just for like switching in between. I say that's a great thing, rather than 4, 5, 6.
For me,
7,
that's
8.
a great thing because right now I'm playing Prey, which is this massive like I guess like an RPG with like sort of like an open world tendency, like a lot of complicated stuff that you need to like keep track of. But at the same time, I'm also playing Bayonetta, which is like this fun like beat 'em up game that you can just pop in for like 30 minutes when you're bored.
Exactly. Now, for instance, I played now Rocket League, which is a really nice sort of a sidetrack from the football games. I played the football game like FIFA like many years ago, but it was like, you know what? I rather want something new, and I think that Rocket League is just a fun example. A lot of people
something
have
so they can reinvigorate, like refresh.
Yeah. But I think that what a lot of people have been complaining is that the community is usually very harsh. I find that League of Legends is rather rash.
It was rash, but the way it is now, people are so afraid to insult in League of Legends that no matter what you do, you either get a suspension of 14 days. They implemented an honor system where if you get honor level 5, aka you're an awesome player, you don't flame, you don't do that stuff, you get in-game skins and all that shit. So if you get just one little penalty, like you get chat restricted for one game, it goes back to level 0, not even level 1,
Then again,
level
who
0.
controls it? Is it like the game, or is it whoever's the admin or something like
It's
that?
the game. Like,
Okay, it's not
all
like a community
bots.
thing. Like nobody can report it.
No,
Basically.
nobody can.
Well, thank God.
So it's basically an implementation by the company, basically.
Yeah, and you can get banned out of nowhere for I don't know. You're in a
Okay.
game and you see.
Here's a discussion that I
That's
want
the
to have.
last straw.
Aside from like that, here's a discussion I want to have. Which one do you prefer? A community that's like pacifist, or like one that's toxic, but like actually, I don't know how to like.
Depends on the
I'm
game.
fucking bad with words. How like it can be toxic, but at the same time, it's like based on skill. Like if you suck, you will be insulted, but like if you get better, you actually earn respect. Or a community that doesn't want to do anything, that doesn't really have skill, that doesn't really want to tolerate like any toxicity or stuff like that, and they just want to keep quiet, like League, like you mentioned. Like everybody's afraid to like be like a little bit like encouraging.
For me, it depends on the game. Like League, I rather have people not. I rather have the game without a chat, because sometimes I'm so frustrated I just can't hold myself and I just gotta say go fuck yourself, retard, to some guy. Like legit, that game pisses me off, and the players, how is that player the same rank as me? Like, sometimes it's not a question of skill, it's a question of being intelligent and thinking, oh look, I've got 2 HP, let me go back. No, the fucker stays in lane and dies. And feeds.
Yeah.
Of course.
But then again, they're learning probably at a very different pace, and then again, you're basically judging upon the fact that you're, as I said, you're presuming that these people are supposed to be very intellectual in the first place.
Yeah.
You know,
yes.
even the most.
But at the same time, they're the same level as you, so like you should probably expect to.
But
be,
I don't do shit like
at,
that.
Like a certain skill.
No.
At, like a certain skill towards you.
It could be a bad day. It could be, in the worst case, it could be someone that they constantly think of, and they'd be like, "Well, I can't even get it out of my mind. I'm gonna play video games just to try to not remember it." Yeah, it's like situational. I think that's the biggest thing that I think that a lot of people have issues with is if you meet a person outside on the street, you're just saying hi and then being like "fuck you." You can interpret that in 2 things. Number 1, it could be that they either don't like you or they have a bad day. Those are 2 things that I interpret it as, and I say like, well, you can either just be grudgy about it, or you can just move on. And I just usually say I just move on.
Okay, here's my argument with the toxicity part. Like, I've been playing it for like fucking almost half a year now. But like Overwatch is a good example of it, where the actual developers decided to go out of the way to like have any skill like I don't know what's like. Basically, in like most multiplayer games, you get like a scoreboard or like a leaderboard where you see like how many kills you get, how many stuff you get, and how good you're ranking against other people, and how good are you with your team. You don't see that. The only increment you can see that is in competitive, which in and of itself it's kind of an oxymoron, since they don't want to have any like toxicity or any competition inside the game, but they still add a mode for like esports and stuff like that for popularity reasons.
Yeah, this is basically an internal censorship, in my opinion.
Yeah, when you play competitive, the only ranking you get is how much you do by placements. So, like, if you get perfect placements, like, let's say, like, 10 out of 10 games, you get, like, you win every single time, and you end up, like, being, like, I don't even know how to explain. There's so many dumb stuff that go into implementation of how like, the score you get in the competitive scene. Basically, if you get diamond, you're, like, top player, but there isn't really a way that you can get diamond, because or one that represents your skill accurately, because you still have to rely on your teammates to like get the win. So like if you're paired up for 10 games straight with awful teammates that don't know what they're doing and they have awful coordination, everybody's too scared to be competitive and toxic, so you can't get anything done because nobody's helping out. Nobody's like trying to take point in the team.
Yeah.
So you end up kind of losing, or like not being focused enough to get a win. And you end up getting a bad rank for the entire placement of that season, so you have to wait a couple of more months. And even with that, like, the devs themselves are fucking awful with it, because they're doing constant patches and, like, fixes that are completely, like...
unnecessary.
Unnecessary, and throwing the game off balance. Mid-season, they added a new character that changed entirely, like, how to play the game. Like, it's such a just clusterfuck of I don't even know how to talk about it, but like,
Yeah, it's like the basically what I'm trying to interpret, especially what you're saying, is that it's okay to change. It's okay to change the adaptability, but the problem was that they're doing it too early. That you get like, well, you have no time to
yeah,
compensate with the slower pace. It's like, can you just give me one thing and let me work on a one thing at a time instead of changing it all the time? It's like, what should I focus upon? It's like changing something. Now you're gonna talk about World War One. Now you're gonna talk about World War Two. Now you're gonna be World War Three, maybe in the worst case, like possible scenario. Like, which one should I do? Like, give me the one and let me work and be finished with it, rather than putting sporadical devices. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be like leaving, you know?
Yeah, and another positive example of like a good toxic community is nobody plays this game, but I love it to death. Titanfall 2 has like, I guess, like 900 players playing on PC exclusively. So like you see a lot of like a lot of people who like what's the word, like you see them frequently in the game, basically.
Yeah,
and you get to know them, and you get to like personally talk to them about the game and how to play. I've met a couple of people that I have like on Discord right now that I've met, you know, through playing the game.
okay.
And the community in that game can be a bit toxic, because sometimes there's different game modes. You can play like your usual team deathmatch, and sometimes you play like 1v1. Sometimes you can even do like races or like defense missions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And while they are toxic, you can learn a lot from those communities because they try to help each other out. The movement-based like mechanics in that game are so complex that it will take you like a while to like get to know them and get to know all the exploits and how to like optimize your routes and stuff like that. But like, even when they insult you, they at least help you out and try to teach you how to play the game. And the community, like, it's also like tight knit. You know, I don't think it would work if it was like a player base of like 14,000 players or more. Overwatch is another example because there's like millions of people playing it at the same time. You can't keep track of it.
Basically, it's an insult with reasoning. You know, not just insult for being an insult, but it's insult with reason. Like, it's like, hey, you fool, get on the right side. Do you want to die? So that's the thing you're gonna get if you don't do it right. Much. That kind of insulting is like random.
I say we end the podcast here because
but still, like, what do you guys prefer though?
Whoa! As I was saying, it depends on the game. For example, if I'm gonna go play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, I want people to be ear-raping and just being complete toxic faggots. I want random cars coming out of the blue with the cucaracha music and just going in circles around me. That's the kind of shit I want to see in those games.
Christ.
Anyways, we're ending it because number one, I'm dying, and number two, I'm dying even more.
Alright, thank you all for those people who've been watching. I hope you all have a very nice evening.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say this at the beginning, but Donald Duck is gonna be a regular from now on. So yeah.
Bring back the duck cock.
Yes, we're gonna have a duck now, and we're gonna call it the Red Duck Podcast.
Please don't reference to his penis. It's rather magnificent.
Oh yeah.
Talk about all the time.
All right. Thanks for everyone watching, and yeah. Goodbye, peeps.
Bye.